Matthew 25, 14 through 30. Let everybody turn there. After we're done reading, we got a short video I'm going to have everybody watch. Take about 5 minutes. Goes along with the lesson. Matthew 25, 14 through 30. Almost there. Okay. (25, 14 through 30). We're starting with verse 14. Everybody there? Yes. Okay. Verse 14. For the kingdom of heaven is like a man traveling to a far country, who called his own servants and delivered his goods to them. And to one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, to each according to his own ability. And immediately he went on a journey. Then he who had received the 5 talents went and traded with them, and made another 5 talents. And likewise he who had received 2 gained 2 more also. But he who had received 1 went and dug in the ground and hid his Lord's money. After a long time the Lord of those servants came and settled accounts with them. So he who had received 5 talents came and brought 5 other talents, saying, Lord, you delivered to me 5 talents. Look, I have gained 5 more talents besides them. His Lord said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You were faithful over a few things. I will make you ruler over many things. Enter into the joy of your Lord. He also who had received 2 talents came and said, Lord, you delivered to me 2 talents. Look, I have gained 2 more talents besides them. His Lord said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a few things. I will make you ruler over many things. Enter into the joy of your Lord. Then he who had received the 1 talent came and said, Lord, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you have not sown, and gathering where you have not scattered seed. And I was afraid, and I went and hid your talent in the ground. Look, there, you have what is yours. But his Lord answered and said to him, You wicked and lazy servant. You knew that I reap where I have not sown and gather where I have not scattered seed. So you ought to have deposited my money with the bankers, and at my coming I would have received back my own with interest. Therefore, take the talent from him and give it to him who has 10 talents. For to everyone who has, more will be given, and he will have abundance. But from him who does not have, even what he has will be taken away. And cast the unprofitable servant into the outer darkness. There will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Go ahead, Q, whenever you're ready there. How cute. Again, thank you, Pastor, and the AIM team. And we take for granted a lot what we have in the space we're in, and we truly have some of the best leadership that anybody could ask for. It's truly a blessing, and hopefully we don't take that for granted. So talking about waves of opportunity today, and how often maybe on a Monday morning you wake up feeling like that guy, or you're about your day and you just get smashed with something. Life comes about and you just get pummeled and you want to go run and hide, and it's a cute, funny story, but it's something that I think is very relatable. It's truly a kind of a story about growth and perseverance and bravery. And so we're going to talk about how this kind of relates to our story today. So talents, the parable of the talents, right? Jesus was talking about this, and the last servant in the story, the one in verse 25, says he was afraid. So he allowed fear to change his mindset, to change what he was going to do. The other 2 servants, they took what they had, the 5 and the 2 talents, and they went and they traded with people and they got more. But the last servant, he allowed fear. Verse 25, he was afraid. He allowed fear to cloud his judgment. And back, I know most people know this, but I grew up in church, but then I left church. Some people don't know. I left church for about 5 years. That was quite a few years ago now, but about 5 years I had left, and during that time that I was gone, there was things that kept me, in my mind, from coming back to church, and it was fear, really, is what it was, and afraid of judgment, afraid of commitment, of accountability, of just being looked down upon, and I let that keep me away. And it's fear when it's a mindset like that you allow to take place, and a lot of people have anxiety, and that's not something we all have, instances of anxiousness in our life, but that's something I haven't, praise God, I haven't had to deal with. But I know there's a lot of people that deal with anxiety, and it seems like it's a sense of fear. Maybe I'm wrong, but of you're unsure of what's going to happen. You don't know how things are going to turn out, and that it can really hinder you. And I have a question: does God give us fear? Did God give us fear? No. I'm going to pull a pastor. It's kind of a trick question. So, God didn't give us a spirit of fear, right? In 2 Timothy 1:7, but we do have fear. There's physical fear that we experience, and there's spiritual fear. And there's a difference between the two, but there's also some similarities. So, physically, when you're afraid, right, your body releases hormones, cortisol, and adrenaline, and it kicks in your fight, flight, or freeze response. Right, that's how we're built. It's to react. Right, something's going on, and you have to make a choice. Right, fear physically is a motivator for us to do something, to make a choice. And spiritually speaking, it should kind of work the same way. But we don't want to be stuck in this area in a constant state of fear. Okay, we don't want to be stuck there. And it's how do you not be stuck in a mindset of fear? It's like this habit that you just keep going back to, and you're unsure and you're afraid, and it comes back. How do you get out of that cycle? Well, first of all, if you've received His Spirit, you have that power and that love and that sound mind that God can give you, right? And then in that verse, for God has not given us a spirit of fear. That word fear also means faithless. Okay, so fear really is not trusting God. That's really what it boils down to. You're saying, God, I don't know what to do. I can't handle this. You can't handle this. I don't know what to do. I can't trust in you for this. And that's not a good place to be. To get out of that mindset of fear, we need to, right? The piper in the beginning was afraid of the waves, right? And gets smashed and then doesn't want to go back, right? You can get stuck in that cycle. But fear really is just saying, God, to get out of fear, I need you in my life, and I'm going to trust you for every single thing. It's easy to trust God when everything's going well. That's pretty simple, right? But when your mortgage is due and you don't have the money, or your car payment, or somebody passes away, or something terrible happens in your life, that's where the rubber meets the road. That's where it's difficult. And so I'd like to really challenge everybody, and this is something I do myself, I try to do myself, is that when the next time something happens, just think of Piper, okay? Think of this. Nope. Kind of shake it off, right? Piper, just shake it off, get that grit. Nope. God, I'm going to trust in you to make a way. Right. And that'll help us to get out of that mindset of fear. So in the parable, the workers, the master gives the workers their talents, right? You have the 5 talents and the 2 talents and the 1 talent. And the master gives that to everybody, okay? And likewise, spiritually, God is our master. God gives us our talents. Everybody in here has certain talents, abilities that they've been blessed with. And out of all those talents, out of all those abilities, in Jeremiah chapter 1, it tells us that even before we were formed in the womb, God knew us and God sanctified us. God gave us a purpose. We have what we have for a reason. Amen. God, that's part of God's plan. 1 Corinthians chapter 12, 14 through 18, for in fact the body is not one member, but many. If the foot should say, because I am not a hand, I am not of the body, is it therefore not of the body? And if the ear should say, because I am not an eye, I am not of the body, is it therefore not of the body? If the whole body were an eye, where would be the hearing? If the whole were hearing, where would be the smelling? But now God has set the members, each one of them in the body, just as He pleased. And God has set us here just as He pleased. And sometimes we can feel like we don't belong, we don't fit in, and that's not true. We're all here, we all have certain talents, and not just some of us play music, some of us are ministers, preach and teach, some people teach Bible studies. Some people like to do fundraising. Some people like to do book clubs or something, or sports, right? We all have certain things that we like to do and that God has blessed us with. And it's easy sometimes if you were to say, I think I'm a one-talent person, okay? It's easy to look at 2 and 5 talent people and get a little jealous sometimes, right? You can, well, why did God bless them with that stuff? I want to be able to do that stuff too. And that's not the right way to look at it. The Bible gives us how we're supposed to handle that. Later in 1 Corinthians chapter 12, it says, if one member is honored, all members rejoice with it. Okay? So if somebody else gets a blessing, somebody gets a new car, a new job, whatever the case may be, if you see somebody else doing well, we as the body need to come together and say, praise God that person is doing well. That's helping the church to grow. That's helping. We should be encouraging and be thankful that others in the church are being blessed. So what does God expect us to do with these talents, right? We don't want to be stuck in that mindset of fear. We want to get out of that. And we have all these talents and abilities, but what do we do with them? We use them, right. So in our parable, in the scripture, what do the servants do? So 2 of them, right? 2 of them went and traded with the same, and they got more, and they invested and they got more back. And then one chose to not do that. In the King James Version, in verse 16, it says, then he that had received 5 talents went and traded with the same. Who here has heard of the term iron sharpens iron? Okay, pretty common term, right? Iron sharpens iron. So that's what these guys did. The 5-talent servant and the 2-talent servant. They went around other people that had their talents, that were also trying to grow their talents, and they invested. They learned from them, okay? In this church, when we have talents that God has given us, we need to be around other people that are also growing their talents, that are in a good mindset, that are doing the right thing. We need to be careful about who we're spending our time with, okay? The environment that you place yourself in and the people that you're around will dictate and change you, okay? For instance, if anybody in here were to move to Texas in a year, you'd probably have a southern accent. Ask his brother. Okay, he moved down there. He's got a southern accent now, right? The things and the people we are around, it affects us. And we want to be influencing other people, not people influencing us. So we need to be careful about who we're spending our time with. If we're constantly being around people that are negative or lazy, it's really going to help us not to grow and become where we need to go. All right. So God's response to both the workers, the 5-talent and the 2-talent servants, was both the same thing, right? He said, "Well done, good and faithful servant." Okay. In Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verse 10 tells us, "Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with your might. For there is no work or device or knowledge or wisdom in the grave where you are going." What that's saying is, whatever you do it with everything you have, because soon you're going to be dead, right? You're not going to be here anymore to do that thing. So whatever you find to do it with everything that you have. God has an expectation that we are going to put maximum effort into the things that we do. And that holds true on the spiritual sense side too, in our walk with God. He wants us to put maximum effort into everything that we do. If the 1-talent servant had come back with just one more talent, what do you think the master would have said? Probably well, right? If you look at the pattern, well done, good and faithful servant. There's room in God's kingdom for 5-talent people, for 2-talent people, for 1 talent. And this might be a little awkward today because we're talking about different skills and abilities, whether it's physical things or spiritual gifts, right? Gifts of prophecy or discerning of spirits or whatever it is, right? It's all types of gifts and abilities. It can be kind of a tender subject to think about, oh, who's got more than the other person, right? But we got to be honest with ourselves and know where we're at. In my job, I do a lot of construction stuff, and there's something I like to say a lot of times is, I know what I'm good at, and I know what I'm not good at. And that's just as important, to know what you're not good at, okay? So even if, for instance, you said, well, I think I'm a one-talent person, but I don't have anything extra to offer, okay? I don't play music, I don't teach or preach, I don't do book clubs. Like, you feel like you have no extra skills that you can give to the church or to anybody else. Here's something that you can think about. If you feel you have nothing else to offer, what you do have to offer is being the best prayer warrior, being the best Bible reader, being the best church attendee, being the best tithe and offering giver. Those are basic foundation things that we all have to do. We all have to do those things. And if you can do that with all your might, to the best of your ability, that in itself is a pretty powerful talent, I think. Right? That gives everybody. I know this person. Okay. I know Tina. She's at church every single Sunday, and she's always reading her Bible, and I see her up there at the altar every single week, and she's praying, and it's setting an example, okay, and a really good example. That's something that is really important. So and I don't believe nobody has extra talents. I don't believe that for a second. But if you felt like you didn't have anything extra to offer, then put all of your focus into those fundamental, basic things, because that in itself is truly powerful and will help change the church. So, and nobody raised their hand or call out or put fingers up, okay? Just think about this. So, which servant are you? Do you think you're a 5-talent servant? Do you think you're a 2-talent servant? Do you think you're a 1-talent servant? Just think about it. Do you think there's a reason you're a 1-talent or a 2-talent or a 5-talent servant? I think so. Right? In members of the body, God placed us all as He pleased. Okay? If you're familiar with kind of the superhero world, Marvel, right? You probably know about, whether it's through books or comics or movies, whatever. You're probably familiar with Spider-Man, right? He's a pretty cool dude, swinging around on webs and stuff. Peter Parker, right? That's his name, Peter Parker. There's a moment in that universe where Peter Parker's with his Uncle Ben, and he's the caretaker of Peter. And Peter's kind of going through a tough time in his life where he's trying to figure out what's going on. He just learned he's Spider-Man, and he's just dealing with stuff at school, and he's got a lot of turmoil like going on inside of him. And he's sitting with his Uncle Ben, and there's kind of this, everything gets real quiet. It's just kind of this real profound moment that's going to happen. And his Uncle Ben tells him, and you'll probably know this, with great power comes great responsibility. Some people have heard, with great power comes great responsibility. Like this, whoa, really profound moments, Did you guys know that's in the Bible? It is. Marvel kind of took that from the Bible, okay? Luke chapter 12, verse 48. For everyone to whom much is given, great power, from him much will be required. Great responsibility, okay? It's biblical. It's in there. If you have a lot, you need to give a lot, okay? That's what God expects from us. Think of everybody just think of a specific, labor person, whether it's electrician, flooring person, plumber, a painter, some kind of specific trade like that, okay? How often do you think that a painter gets asked to go do plumbing? Probably not very often. How often do you think a flooring company gets asked to go wire a house? Probably not very often, right? They're stuck on that one thing, and that's pretty much what they do. And now think of a general contractor, okay? GC, general contractors. They do everything, right? They take the whole shebang. They do all of it, flooring, electrical, plumbing. They go and do everything, okay? If you're going to be jealous, okay, of 5 talent people you think have more talents and abilities than you, what you're really saying is, God, I want more responsibility. So think about that the next time you might get a stinky attitude because somebody else is doing more than you're doing. Because when you're looking at them saying, oh, I wish I could do that thing or this thing, and I'm pretty sure there's what's this thing called? Oh, a commandment that says thou shalt not covet, right? Don't be jealous of what other people have, okay? But when we look at people who we think have more talents and abilities, maybe they do. They do have more, and that's okay. That's okay. We need to be okay with that. But if we want what they have, I wish I could do that. I wish I had that car. I wish I could do these things. I wish God would speak to me like he speaks to Sister Griggs and Brother Peak over here. And, what you're asking for is more responsibility. So make sure you're prepared for that responsibility. How often do we feel like, has anybody felt like they're kind of stuck? Like you're in life and you've plateaued and maybe it's in just one area and you feel like, I don't know where else to go. I'm not sure what else to do. I just feel stuck, right? I know I've been there many times, and it's tough to kind of get out of that mindset. But if you're a 1 talent person or a 2 talent or 5 talent, are you going to stay? Do you have to stay that the rest of your life? No, you don't, right? The 5 talent person came back and had 10 talents, and the 2 talent person came back and had 4 talents. They didn't stay there. And why did they not stay there? They went and did something good about it, right? They kept moving forward. They did something with what they had. They did something, and God expects us to do the same thing. When we have whatever it is that we're good at, that God's given us to do, God expects us to go and do something with it. Go and invest, learn. We have elders in this church, many of them, that would be more than happy to help you to grow your skills and your talents. More than happy. In Piper there, right, you saw the standing on the crabs, and the crab went out there and thought that the crab got destroyed and ran out and checked on him, and it was the crab, really, that helped Piper to see, right? Open your eyes. Look around. See what's out here, okay? We got people that'll be your crab. There's people in this church that'll be your crab. Hopefully they're not crabby with you. I'll be somebody's crab. I'll help you, right? We got people that'll do that. So at the end of our scripture, it says, "For to everyone who has, more will be given, and he will have abundance. But from him who does not have, even what he has will be taken away. And cast the unprofitable servant into the outer darkness." I don't want to be an unprofitable servant. I hope you guys don't either. I don't think anybody wants that, right? And it might, well, that seems kind of harsh. God, why would you take away the only thing this person has and give it to somebody who has more? But when you think about it, think about somebody who's a really hard worker at their job. They show up early, they're the last to leave, they don't call out, they do their job really well. They get rewarded. They get a raise. They move up the ladder, whatever it might be. They get more than what they started with. Now the opposite, you have somebody who calls out, who shows up late, who doesn't do their job, who isn't a good coworker. A lot of the times, they get fired. When you get fired, you have no money. When you have no money, you can't pay your bills. When you can't pay your bills, you lose things. You lose your car, you can't get food, you lose your house, okay? They had a little bit, and what they did have, they lost. Same type of thing, okay? Before I left church, I was just kind of here taking up space, right? I was just going through motions. When I left, I lost I lost a lot. That little bit I did have, I was taken away. And I want to be in a place where when life comes against me and is crashing down, I don't get that mindset of fear. I might have a moment of fear, and that makes me choose, okay, what do I need to do? What do I need to choose to do in this moment? I'm going to say, I'm going to choose to trust God. I'm going to choose to rely on him. And if we all can really get in that mindset, and just remember Piper. If you don't remember anything from this lesson, just remember Piper, right, the cute little video. Don't be afraid to open your eyes when things are crashing down on you, because it opened up a whole world of opportunity, right? Piper was able to see all the food, to go out, and to be able to help the rest of the flock. When we're able to open our eyes, we're able to help the rest of the flock as well. So that's what I have for our devotion this morning. We have... Yes, it is this afternoon. Yes, that's right. Not this morning. 30 minutes, 5 o'clock, fellowship, and looking forward to praise and worship.